I love this thing called life. We took the book with us, Ernest Holmes, and of course I don't know about you, but I rarely get through all of his books when I read them, because I read one paragraph and I say, "Hey David," and then we have this lengthy conversation about what that one paragraph or that one sentence or this one word or one idea means. And so let me share a few things Ernest Holmes says in it, but overall, if you have not read this thing called life, it is so fabulous. It is evolving, it is life-affirming, it is scientific, and you can prove it. Ernest Holmes says we are calling it simply life. The religionist call it God. The philosopher calls it reality. Life is infinite energy coupled with limitless creative power. In Science of Mind, we believe in the unity of all life and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. And I always want to add on to that, so that's you and me and everybody else, because you can't help but to feel it, because it is you. And do we sometimes step outside of it? We absolutely do, but we learn when those moments are, and we also learn how to step back into loving this thing called life. Life's law is consciously directed and definitively used by you. We all use the law, whether we know we're using it or not. So learning how to use it is incredibly powerful and helpful. We direct and use the law by making use of a specific thought. So in order to say, I love my life, we might want to look at what those specific thoughts are that we are having. Because when we continually think a variety of thoughts, we don't give law a dominant belief in which to manifest. It's like throwing 1,000 kinds of seeds into our garden. We will get 1,000 kinds of plants. And even those of us who know how to use the law sometimes mess it up. At times, we have good intentions, and we think we've planned it out really, really well, but lo and behold, what manifests and what shows up is what our dominant thought was, and we get to go back and look at, how was I as specific in acquiring this? So David and I took our retreat, our time to go RVing, on what we called, what we literally termed, an adventure. We were going to try out the various ways in which you could RV, and we did. We went to state parks, we went to national parks, we went to KOAs, we went to privately owned camping sites. We went boondocking, which David says I don't have the right definition, but my definition of boondocking is you have no plan. You just head out, and where you end up, that's where you end up. And that was our plan at times.
Our plan to not have a plan.
And trust me, we had a garden with 1,000 different kinds of plants. Some beautiful, some weeds, and some actually poison sumac. Still got that. The evidence is clear. All in all, we got exactly what we had planned. An adventure to find out what RV plans would work best for us. And we decided that the variety was not what we would desire. We would desire one specific plan. So, I'm not planning another RV trip until I know exactly what I've placed into the law, and it won't be a wild adventure. It won't be trying out a little bit of everything to see what works for me. It will be one specific plan. So as you think about your life, what about you? Do you get clear with your plans? Do you have one specific thought that you put into that plan? Your words, do they match the plan? Do they attract and create a belief system within you that has the capacity to manifest accordingly? And whether you do or not is none of my business, and whether I do or not is none of your business. Whether we are still in practice mode for designing our plans, which I believe every human being is, we can still always love this thing called life. Regardless of circumstances, we can find joy and peace within every experience. We can be able to laugh at our outcomes, to laugh at the results that we ourselves created, and we can always be able to see through them to the good, if we desire to, if that becomes the plan, to see the good. At one point, my daughter-in-law texted, "Geez, you two can't seem to catch a break," to which I sent an LOL text back, and it was followed by a text that said, "And still, I feel so blessed and grateful." And she texted back, "Isn't that the truth?" Because the truth is that in every moment, there is something to be grateful for. And I know I've sat with people who have said to me, "There really isn't, Deborah, there isn't anything." And I think, how can you sit there and live and breathe and say that? There is always something to be grateful for. And so sometimes we have to look harder than other times. Sometimes it's easy to say, well, this is going on and yucca yucca, but this and this and this and this, magnificent. But there are moments. They're called the black nights of the soul, and I've experienced them, so I know. But I was always able to name the things, the ideas that I was grateful for. And if you don't know what it is sometime, try that pure spirit. How about being grateful for pure spirit? God, that which you are made in the likeness and image of, because that will surely direct you toward a specific cause. So if our attention is on that gratefulness, then we are giving 100% of our attention to the specific thought with complete certainty.
Well, when I know we're going to have some time, some free time, one thing I love to do is read. So I took a couple of books with me, and I also had a Holmes book, a Fenwick Holmes book, entitled The Law of Mind in Action. And here's what he says: life in us is infinite. However fully we live, we have but an increasing sense of our own livingness. Life cannot be lived up, for it is infinite. Life is not in the body, but in the spirit. Its length is not to be measured by the physical or animal strength, but by the spirit within. The chief concern of metaphysics is not to get the body well, but to get the mind to realize its wellness and to realize the inner sources of life. It's recognizing exactly what Deborah was talking about, the idea that life is something that flows through us. It's not something that we are in the midst of necessarily all on our own, my life. It is an energy that is everywhere around us and is flowing through us and as us into the world. I think it's important to also to bring out the idea Deborah's talking about finding a specific thought with complete certainty. One specific thought with complete certainty. We're talking about the fact that life is infinite. It's not limiting to just one thought, but is choosing one out of the infinite realm of all that is, knowing that there are so many choices out there available to us. Why do something we've always done in the past? Choose something different. Decide what it is that you want to experience and put complete certainty on that one idea. Ernest Holmes quite often talks about the larger life or the greater life. And I like those terminologies. I love those ideas of knowing there's something bigger and better. There's something bigger in the universe than we are, and we can use it. There's something better in the universe than we are, and we can use it. Knowing that there is divine realm of potentiality, and it is ours, and we can take advantage of it. Ernest Holmes wasn't alone when he said this. Thomas Troward said it. Emerson said it. Dalai Lama says it. Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Mandela, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. See what I'm saying? The promise of all religions and spiritual traditions is that there is more than this everyday 9 to 5 existence that we're having. There's more to life than that. God is bigger than this everyday experience that I'm having. Joseph Campbell says, I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life as much as they're looking for the experience of being alive. That's what's important. The feeling of life. The feeling of the life force within us. Something that gets us up in the morning. That wakes us up and allows us to move on. I have this saying that I use quite often, are you living or just existing? Are you living your life or just passing the time by? Maya Angelou says, life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Do you have any of those? If not, why don't you go look for them? Are you living or just existing?
Yeah, I love that. You know, David's talking right there about the larger life that is the greater life, and how many, many greats that we respect and admire and learn from their sayings have shared in life. And yet I think that sometimes we get stuck in that idea and think that there is something better for us than what we're presently experiencing. And the only thing that the word better can be shifted by is thought. The idea of something better is about our own thinking. So in biblical teachings, if they're not metaphysical teachings, they often talk about the meaning of life as a proving ground, a place for us to learn and grow through pleasant and painful experiences, and about choosing between good and evil. And in Science of Mind, we don't believe there is good and evil. There are no dueling forces. It is all good. And to the degree which we are able to have that one specific thought with certainty about good, we are able to create and manifest in a way that we desire to. I believe, and Science of Mind teaches, there is one life. That life is God. That life is good. And it is your life and my life right now and eternally. So other people say that the meaning of life is about a search. I equate that word better sometimes with the idea of searching. I think that when I was younger, maybe I did use that word of searching or looking, exploring what was better, what was more, what was the meaning of life, what was the meaning of love, what is my purpose. And maybe that's a stage and a step we all have to go through, but I sure wish that what I knew now, I'd known when I was 20. And on some level we do. Inside us we do. If we didn't, we wouldn't be where we are today in this teaching, accepting responsibility for our own lives and creating the way we desire to. So now I understand that there is nothing to search for because everything already is. All that is fully present. And anything that I desire is there for me, supporting me. I simply get to choose. I get to decide in each and every moment, as do you, what life is for me in this moment. And as life evolves, so do my ideas in the moments evolve of what I desire in this moment. Life is awe-inspiring. And as we open up to that awe, we reveal it in our lives. So another story. David and I drove, and you're going to hear this story from both sides today. David and I drove the Shenandoah mountain ridge, and we stopped at a variety of overlooks. And of course, we took lots of pictures, and we stood there, arms open, just soaking it in, and hugging each other, and breathing it in, and feeling so very, very, very grateful to be able to see the magnificence of Mother Earth. And we stopped at these overlooks and enjoyed them, and at some point we decided that we would hike up in on one of the trails, and you'll hear more about that a little bit later. Only to see, as we hiked to those overlooks that you couldn't drive to, the same exact sights. And those same exact sights were beautiful, and yes, it was absolutely awesome to walk through the forest and to get some other sights. But my point is, we weren't missing anything. There wasn't anything better at the next outlook than there was at the driving outlook. There wasn't anything more. I think sometimes we're searching for something we think we're missing when there is nothing missing, only our thought giving attention to the right idea that we desire to have in our life. And so science of mind teaching draws us into a deeper understanding of how to be very selective with our thoughts, with our words, to increase their creative power and the capacity for manifestation in our own lives.
Yes, I don't know that I would say my perspective on that is a whole lot different.
I agree.
Except that when you're hiking up the mountain, a 1.5 mile hike suddenly turns into about 6 miles, or so it feels. And so we're going up the mountain, and it was, we were open to a different environment. We were in the middle of the forest, and the trees, and the rocks, and the streams, and the birds singing, and this cool breeze. It was in about the 60s or 70s or something like that. Imagine that. It was beautiful. And so we're hiking up the mountain, and we get so tired. So we sat for a little bit, and then we start hiking some more. Said, man, it's got to be close to this 1.5 miles. People come in the opposite direction to us, and we asked them, how far is it till we get there? And the guy says, well, where are you going? Well, we're going to the top. And he says, well, which there are you looking for? There are lots of theirs. You can go this way, you can go that way, or you can whatever. He's like the scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. Which there are you looking for? And I thought at that moment, ooh, I can use this for a talk. Which there are you looking for? And he said, yeah, actually, if you go about what do you say, about 1,000 yards this direction, you'll come to a overlook there, and it's a vista that's beautiful. And then if you go another 500 yards beyond that, there's another one that's really beautiful. And of course, we walked up to those, and yep, it's the same thing we saw before. We walked to the next one, and yep, it's the same thing we saw before. And we went back to the point where we asked the guy and went the opposite direction. We had pretty much the same experience. But it made me think about, what are you actually looking for? What is the there that you're hoping to see? Will you ever get there? Will you ever get there? It's a good question. Maybe it's about the journey, not the destination.
And are you already there?
We're already there. That's exactly it. Ernest Holmes says the great lesson is that life delivers itself into our capacity to receive it. We opened ourselves up to a new experience, and as we were there going through that experience, we received so much from that experience. So much nature, some great conversations, some good physical activity. Ernest says the Spirit is both an overdwelling and an indwelling presence. We are immersed in it, and it flows through us as our very life. We were already there the whole time. He says, the life of God within me radiates and shines forth from me in a constant stream of light to all. The one life flowing through me is life to all who come near me. So the more that I accept more into my life, the more it blesses me, and the more then I project it out into the world to others. So we hope that the people we bumped into on the path were actually enlightened by our enthusiasm to be there. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, God is your life, health, strength, and support forever. I like that first part. God is your life. God is your life. Can you accept that? Our very essence is the life of God expressing through us. Our life is the life of God. That's powerful information. One of my favorite poets is Mary Oliver. She says, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? She also says, listen, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life? Have you taken that step forward? Have you opened yourself up to the greater possibilities, opened up yourself to a greater capacity to receive all that life has to offer? Are you living, or are you just existing?
So let's get exhilarated about this life. If you're so inclined, I invite you to enter into a closed eye experience. Close your eyes if you are interested. And imagine yourself on that overlook. Imagine yourself on a mountaintop. And you're looking into a valley. And you're looking into miles and miles of rolling hills and forests. Breathe into and from that. And as you stand there, notice that there are small winding rivers making their way through the forests, down the hills and mountains, through the valley. And notice that several of those small rivers meet at a lake. They form a lake. And as you stand there on your mountaintop, notice how the lake looks like a small puzzle piece in the grand scheme of all that is. And in this moment, feel your oneness. Realize how tiny you and your problems are. And then sense the balance found in realizing that even though I am tiny in form to the whole, I'm as powerful as the force I use to solve my problems. I am powerful beyond measure. And in this moment, put your hands on your heart. And silently within you say, I love this thing called life. And now whisper it right out loud. I love this thing called life. Say it with full voice.
I love this thing called life.
And as you open your eyes, open your arms, and embrace the greater, and say,
I love this thing called life.
And so it is.